It's the 19th of August 2010, and the band Swell Season is performing at the Mountain Winery in Saratoga, California. Things were going as planned until around 10 p.m. that night. According to spectators, an unknown man was seen getting off of his seat during the middle of the band's performance. When the band duo had just finished performing one of their songs, the singer of the duo, Glenn Hansard, began talking to the audience. Unexpectedly during this intermission, that same man who was seen walking away from his seat was now on a rooftop 30 feet above Mountain Winery stage and would fall to his death just a few feet away from Glenn Hansard. A doctor was then quickly called to check on the man, and paramedics were on the scene in an attempt to save him with CPR, but after an hour, he was pronounced dead at the scene. The unknown man was later identified by one of his friends who was with him during the concert. The man was named Michael Edward Pickles. His friend was immediately asked on why they believed Michael took his own life, and they responded that they had no clue on why he did such a thing. It was at this point there was very little information on what happened to him. However, after a background search, Michael had a dark past. As it turned out, Michael was facing numerous charges of assault with a firearm, domestic violence, and false imprisonment after getting into an argument with his girlfriend on New Year's Day. The argument escalated as Michael pointed a loaded shotgun at her and then stated that he was going to kill the both of them. He would then grab her and tie her legs with his girlfriend, pleading that he doesn't kill her and that she wouldn't tell anyone. After Michael agreed to let her go, she would immediately go to one of her friend's house and contact the police. The authorities would go over to Michael's house and negotiate with him for over an hour until he finally surrendered. At the time of the concert, Michael was out on a $150,000 bail and was scheduled to attend court later that year in October. To those who attended the concert, they initially believed that the man was actually a dummy and that this dummy falling was all part of an act, but this situation would in fact be a dark reality, as Glenn Hansard would drop his guitar and show major signs of distress as he saw Michael on the ground. What I'm about to show you is the only publicly available footage of the concert moments after Michael fell to his death.
I feel maybe he wanted it. It's going to be on Facebook tomorrow? right. For his mother.
We think it's best if we can have you all gather in the plaza. We respectfully ask that you please stay there until further notice so we can get the emergency vehicles out of the venue. Thank you for your cooperation.
Due to how traumatic and shocking it was for all of those who attended, Swell Season decided to pay for grief counseling sessions for the hundreds of music fans who were in attendance. Till this day, there's no publicly available footage of Michael falling to his death, and the chances of it ever being released are pretty slim. In February 1992, Pepsi Philippines held a sales promotion that consisted of putting numbers ranging from 001 to 999 inside the caps of PepsiCo pop bottles. A select few of these numbers would be redeemed for prize money, with contestants earning anywhere from 100 pesos to a grand prize of 1 million pesos. Pepsi, however, did put a money cap, as a total of $2 million was granted for this promotion. To prevent any fraudulent scams from occurring, grand prize winning bottle caps were heavily controlled and monitored by PepsiCo, as the security code for confirmation for these caps was needed when contestants wanted to reclaim their winnings. Within the first 3 months, a total of 51,000 prizes were compensated, with 17 of them being the grand prize. Due to how much people were winning, and how much of a success this was for PepsiCo as their sales basically skyrocketed, they decided to extend the campaign for another 5 weeks, with it originally planned to end on May 8th that year. Every night a winning number would be revealed on radio and TV, and with thousands of winners so far, more and more contestants would tune in every evening to hear whether or not they would win life-changing money. And this is exactly what many thought on the 25th of May, 1992. During the ABS-CBN evening news program, the winning number 349 was announced. 2 bottle caps were produced and sold that day with the winning number. However, That's what was originally thought, and things became a problem real quick. As I mentioned earlier, the promotion was extended for another 5 weeks. However, a simple mistake was made. Instead of adding new winning numbers, 800,000 regular bottle caps had already been printed with the number 349. But to make things clear, these bottle caps did not have a security code. Now you can only imagine how devastating this costed Pepsi, and PepsiCo would immediately feel the negative impact, as thousands of winning contestants would make their way to Pepsi bottling plants to claim their reward. Just shortly after this, Pepsi Philippines publicly announced to the contestants that there was an error, later stating that their caps had no confirmation code, so they couldn't even receive any of the prize money. As a form of compensation, the company offered 500 pesos to those who received the winning bottle caps. Now, this compensation may have worked for over half of the people, however the other few 100,000 weren't too happy and demanded the full money. Something else that I should add is that PepsiCo even tried to hide this even though it was already publicly released. What I mean by that is that literally the next day, it was written on news report that the winning number was not 349 and instead it was 134, and this was like their attempt to just confuse people, but the damage had already been done and people weren't falling for it. Soon after, riots would erupt outside the Pepsi factory gates in Quezon City, Philippines. Angry protesters were holding up signs to boycott Pepsi, and violent actions were committed, as it was reported that rocks and homemade explosives were being thrown at the corporate headquarters. Adding on, Pepsi trucks on site were vandalized, overturned, and even burned. As a way to fight for their rights and to get their prize money, a few activist groups were formed. One of these was known as the 349 Alliance, which organized a boycott of Pepsi products and would calmly hold rallies right outside the headquarters and even Philippine government buildings. At first, these protests and rallies were peaceful, but then they just became deadly real quick. There was one specific incident that resulted in the death of a school teacher and a 5-year-old girl. The teacher was named Aniseta Rosero, and alongside the death of the young girl, several other civilians were hurt from the explosion. Another fatal tragedy involves 3 Pepsi Philippines employees being killed by a grenade that was thrown into a warehouse while they were working. These protests would continue on for months, and eventually legal action was involved. As I briefly mentioned, Group 349 Alliance was an established protest group. However, there was a few others that followed in their footsteps. One of these groups was named Collision 349 and was led by a man named Vincent D. Fierro. From the get-go, Vincent wasn't a fan of the new sales promotion, as he described it as a social disease that nurtures the gambling instinct in our children. Things got even worse when he was informed that his daughter was actually one of the people who had the winning bottle cap numbers. Throughout the years, around 687 civil suits and 5,200 criminal complaints against Pepsi were filed just by over 22,000 people. But out of all these suits, none of them were successful, with the final verdict being issued from the Supreme Court of the Philippines in favor of Pepsi, and stating that Pepsi Philippines is not liable to pay the total prize money amount. Today you can find footage of former winning numbers and announcements alongside commercials showcasing the promotion. Only some clips from a Netflix documentary about Pepsi Fever are available. Until this day, this is considered one of the worst marketing campaigns in Philippines history. On the 21st of April 1996, a group of 5 junior high school students in the town of Ichikay, after finishing their club activities, while they were walking and chatting, they noticed a blue futon bag that was tied shut with a black cord that was emitting a horrible odor. Out of curiosity, they used sticks to poke at the bag, and while they were doing so, a hand came out of it. Because of this, the local authorities were informed about the bag, and after investigators were able to take a look at it, they noticed that an entire body had been stuffed inside. It was noted that there weren't any external injuries. However, there were bruises on the lower back and damage on the upper and lower front teeth. Also, due to the body's condition, the person had likely passed away just over a month since being discovered, and on top of this, the body was decomposed, meaning that the cause of death couldn't be determined. Weirdly enough, the location of where the man's body was left was in a small bamboo grave near a residential area. But there were also many swamps and mountains nearby, which left many to believe that whoever hid the body wasn't really familiar with the area and was likely an outsider. Going back to the man, he was clothed in a dark blue jacket, gray dress shirt, green patterned tie, and gray trousers. He was also wearing other luxury brand clothing, such as having on high-end underwear, socks, and possessed a green and red handkerchief. Despite all of this, the point of interest was towards a clothing tag that was found on his pants. Taking a closer look at the tag, it had the initials Tonari Yamamoto written on it. After more investigation, an autopsy had revealed that the body was of a man who was estimated to be in his 40s or 50s, but there was something else in particular that caught the attention of the investigators. While I mentioned earlier that the man had a broken set of teeth, analysis on his dental history reported that a majority of his remaining teeth had multiple cavities and 9 of them were severely damaged. This was very questionable as the man was dressed in high brand clothing, meaning that he likely had the money to pay for all his dental fees. But even with all of that mentioned, this case only became stranger. At this point, the town's local residents were asked by the investigators if they knew a man who went by that name, and to their surprise, no one could help identify him. What makes this even stranger is that while authorities were able to identify 2 dry cleaning shops that handled the pants, both of them were located in the Chiba prefecture, and they did recall handling and cleaning the pants. However, they unfortunately couldn't identify the man. It had seemed that absolutely no one in the area knew about the man, and as a desperate attempt to get any sort of answer, posters were created that highlighted some of the man's features and clothing. This sadly didn't have such a positive impact, as no ideal leads came forward, and it wasn't until April of 2006 in which the police exhumed his remains to create a facial reconstruction of what he may have looked like. A new set of posters were released in hopes of some new information popping up, but till this day, nothing has been brought up, making this still a cold case. Alright, if you made it to this point, I just want to thank you so much for being here. Just hit 82,000 subscribers. It feels nice, I can't lie, but no, seriously, I gotta thank you guys. I know I haven't been as consistent as I could be, but you know what, I kind of got a lot of things going on now. I'll be going back to school in September, and then I have like an internship coming up, so gotta be a little bit busy, but you know what, I'm still gonna be on that YouTube grind on both channels, and as always, thank you guys for being here. By the way, how are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments, because I like to talk a little about myself, but I want to hear what you guys are going through, whether it be good or bad or whatever. Just let me know in the comments. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for being here, and I hope you guys watching have a great rest of your day. But before you leave, don't leave yet, I have to tell you something very important. I just want to let you know that I truly mean that. I truly hope you, yes you, the person I'm pointing to at right now, I just want to let you know that I truly mean that, and I truly hope you do have a great rest of your day. Alright, I'm gonna go now. As always, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye for now.